Welcome back, everybody, to another tutorial video here on Grand Tactician: The Civil War. As with my previous tutorial video and any future ones, understand this is a game that is in early access and is constantly undergoing updates and fixes and patches. Right now we're on 0.76 is the version number, so understand that down the road the game might change. Some of how I talk to you about the events and the things that we're doing today could change in the future, but for now this is how it all works. And today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the tactical battle map, and we're going to talk about everything you need to know about how to manage your army in the field during a battle. In this particular case, we are on the historic Battle of Chancellorsville. I'm controlling the Union Army, and the very first thing you want to look at here is the Order of Battle button, and this is going to allow you to see not only who you have on the field, but who you have who has yet to arrive. There's other places to see that, and I'll show you that later. But right now you can see that Reynolds' Corps, the first corps, is not on the field. That's why they're lighter like this. But we have Couch's second corps, Sickles with the third corps, Meade with the fifth corps. We have Howard's 11th corps, Slocum's 12th corps, and then we have cavalry. Some cavalry hasn't arrived yet. We've got artillery, and then an engineer brigade. Now, from this order of battle screen, I can select any one of these units at any level, and it will take me to that headquarters or to that unit in the case of a brigade. So if I want to find Carroll's brigade, I double-click on it. It's going to take me right to Carroll's brigade. It's an easy way to locate a unit on the field. The other way that you can do that is that, sometimes when new units arrive on the field, they'll all be bunched up in one place, and sometimes it can be really difficult to click on who you want. So the order battle screen is an easy way to do that. Another easy way to do that is that when you have a unit, you have these buttons here. If you go up, it'll take you to the next level in the order of battle. So in this case, if I want to find Carroll's division commander, I just click up here, and it's going to take me to William French, who is his division commander. And now I'm going to see French's division. There's going to be a line drawn to each of the units that he commands in his division. We've got some artillery. We've got one unit. Carroll's actually in the rear there. We can also then cycle to the other units. So if I want to go back down to Carroll, I can go to the other brigades that are in that same division. The division artillery, the brigades, I'm cycling between everybody in that division. Likewise, if I go up to the division, now I can cycle between the divisions that are in that corps. We've got Alonzo Cushing's reserve artillery. We've got Winfield Scott Hancock with the 1st Division. We've got French's 3rd Division. That's actually it right now for what they have on the field. Then again, I can go up to the corps, and now I've got Couch's 2nd Corps. I can go to the other corps level commands that way. So an easy way to kind of cycle through your different units, use that order of battle. It's a really good way to do that. So basically what I'm going to do is I don't really have a plan for how I want to talk through all this stuff. I'm just going to talk through the different orders, what they do, how they work, how you can use them, etc. And I'm keeping it paused for now, but I will show you some things once we actually get going. So let's go ahead and go to a particular brigade. Now, anytime you issue orders at any level during a battle, those orders are going to come from the next level of command. So if I issue orders to an individual brigade, that order is going to come from his division commander. The reason that's important is because those orders have to be issued by the division commander, so they're going to have to come by way of courier or in some cases by bugle, which I'll explain later on. So if I'm issuing orders to a brigade, let's say this brigade is way over here and the rest of the division's here and the division commander's here. That order is going to have to come from that division commander all the way to wherever that brigade is. And that may take some time, and if there's enemy between you and that brigade, it may not get there at all. So you have to keep that in mind, and it's really important during a battle that you keep your units together as much as possible. Keep your brigades in one division all side by side whenever possible. Keep your divisions in the same corps as close together as possible. It's important to keep everybody organized as best you can. Now likewise, if I issue orders to an entire division, so let's say I issue orders to the 1st Division under Hancock, that order is going to come from his corps commander. If I issue orders to an entire corps, that order is going to come from the army commander. Easy way to identify the different levels on the field is by the number of X's. So 4 X's is an army commander, 3 X's is a corps commander, 2 X's is a division commander, and 1 is a brigade commander. So you can see here, here's Hooker, and if I click on him, it's going to show everybody that's under his command. Now, one of the cool things that is in the latest patch is that you can manually control commanders. So let's say I've got 3 brigades from one division right here, and then I've got a 4th one over here, and I want my division commander to kind of be half and half between them. I can manually move him, so I can tell, for example, I can tell Hancock, all right, I want you to move, and I'm going to hold down the Alt button to do this while I'm controlling the division commander, and I can tell Hancock, I want you to move over here. Now, Hancock, just as an individual, is going to move there, but it's not going to affect his units at all. None of them are going to move as well. Now, let's talk about the different orders that are available. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and take Hancock's division. The first thing we have here is the stance button. This is a particular way of just letting your commanders know what the plan is. So let's say I build a battle line. In this case, we're at Chancellorsville, and we know that the Confederates are going to be attacking us. I'm just trying to get my bearings here. I believe that attack should be coming from down this way. So let's say I want to get Hancock into a defensive position. We're going to go ahead and tell him we want to take a defensive. There's assault. It says here, it tells you what it is. Assault the enemy line and break it in a glorious charge. Attack. Engage the enemy in a firefight to break their line. So that's where you don't want to just rush your men in to go to a melee combat situation, but you want to shoot it out with them and try to break them so you can push through. Defend, you're going to receive the enemy attack. And then screen means engage the enemy but keep a distance and fall back under pressure. Good thing to do with cavalry especially. So in this case, I actually want a defensive stance. So we're going to go ahead and give him a defensive stance order. Then we're going to go ahead and give orders as far as what we want where we want that division to go. So in this case, I'm going to go down here with them. I'm going to hold down right click, and I'm going to, while I'm holding down right click, you can see that I can decide which facing I want them. So I'm holding down right click, and then I'm going to move down this way because I want, you can see the arrow facing this way. Now, you don't have to click this check button to issue the orders. They will do it on their own. It's just a way of confirming that order, but it's also a way of saying, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I can cancel that order. It'll never issue the order. Now, when you see here, there are different options for this. In this case, I don't have one for advance, but these buttons here, what those buttons do is those give a bugle call, an instant order, so that you don't have to wait for them to receive couriers to do that. So let me go ahead and hit the play button. If I did it that way, they would immediately obey that order. They would move pretty much simultaneously to when I give the order. You can also do that here with the movement order. You can say double time or you can say stop. So I'm going to go double time. They're going to move even faster. Now you see they're flashing. Flashing means they're in the process of receiving orders. And you'll see they haven't started moving yet because they haven't received those orders yet. Those are going to come from their couriers. And if you zoom in, you can actually see the couriers going out from the division commander to receive those orders, or from the corps commander, because that was a division order. So you can see the courier right there is coming from Couch, the corps commander, to issue orders to Hancock to move his division. Now that Hancock has received those orders, now he's going to issue orders to go ahead and start moving, and you can see that they're doing that. So they're going to start moving into position. Now let's talk about movement for a minute. You can see here that we're set up for a double battle line. You can switch that, again, at any level, division, corps, brigade. Well, you can't really do it at the brigade level. But this is where we can choose what our formation looks like. If I want a single line, they're going to stretch out into a single line with all 5 brigades plus their battery. I could have successive lines, which would be 3 lines. That would be good if you're assaulting in waves. Think of Spotsylvania was an opportunity where the Union did this, where they sent just waves of attacks. Another one would be Fredericksburg. They did that. But right now we're set. You can see the highlighted one is double line. That's how we're set. Now, let's say they're on the end of the line and we want them to refuse the flank. They can curve one of those lines to keep them from turning that flank. But I don't want to do that when I'm in the middle. That would be something I'd want to do, say, with Oliver Howard out here with the 11th Corps. I might want to give Schurz orders to do that, where I could say, I want you to refuse your right flank. So now he's going to move up, but he's going to hold back somebody on the right. You can do this manually as well, but that's just an easy way to do that. So you can see Hancock's moving up. Now, if I did issue orders and tell him to go to a single line, again, that order is going to have to come from Couch, and you can see that line where you can see there's like an arrow being drawn. That's because Couch is in the process of sending a courier with the order to Hancock to tell him to change to a single line formation. What you don't want to do is issue too many orders right in a row, so you really need to think about what you're doing. I shouldn't have issued that order to a single line before he got his movement order, because then I'd have multiple orders coming in. It gets confusing. It's difficult to handle that way. So you want to make sure that they're already acting on existing orders before you try to issue new orders to them. So we'll watch and we'll see when that happens. See, he just received the order to go to single line. So now they're going to switch it up. Now this may mean that I need to adjust his orders again to where I want him to go. So I'm going to do that. Now you can see he's going to single line. Now for me personally, I tend to orient my map based on which direction I'm facing, even though it might mean that up is down and down is up, etc. So I'm going to do that here. An easy way to tell which way your units are facing is just look at the names of the brigade commanders and the division commanders, and that's going to tell you. If, for example, Kane, if his name was on this side, then we would know that Kane was facing this other way. In fact, I'll show you how that works. I'll just issue an order for him to flip. There you go. You can see that. And you can do that really easily. Again, just hold down the right click button and point and move your mouse in the direction you want him to face, and they'll do that. If I want him to face, actually, I didn't mean to give him orders. You want to stay right where they are to do this. If I want him to face this way, he'll do that. Okay, now let's talk about the next formation here, and this is the infantry order formation. And again, you can do this at the division level, corps level, army level, brigade level. I'll do that again with Hancock's corps. Now let's go ahead and unpause, which you can press P to pause and unpause, and that will stay at whatever speed you're at. So let's say I'm at 2 times speed and I hit pause, it'll pause, and then when I hit P again, it'll go back to 2 times speed. All right, so once Hancock gets into position, I want to talk about now the infantry orders. You have a laydown order, you have a skirmisher order, and if you hit the skirmisher order, he's going to immediately issue skirmishers out from his line. So if we press that, you can see, again, since I issued that at division command level, they're going to do that at the division level. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and reissue their orders to get them into battle line here. Everything I do at the division level applies to everybody in that division. If I do it at the brigade level, say just Caldwell's brigade, I want to do this with. Same deal. I can issue particular orders, but it's only going to apply to Caldwell, and that order is going to come from Hancock. The other things here, we've got long range, medium range, and short range. And that's the range at which they will engage the enemy. They'll start firing. Long range would be at their max range, and the range is drawn based on the weapons they have. So you're going to see that different units are going to have different ranges depending on what kind of weapons they have. These guys all have Springfields, so their range is going to be the same for all of those units. If they had different guns, it would be different. So that's the range. Max range is out there. Right now they're ordered at medium range, so they're not going to fire at the enemy. So if you've got a brigade, an enemy brigade, sitting in between this dashed line and the max line, and you're wondering why they're not firing, that's why, because they're outside of the range where they've been told to fire. Now, I'll get into initiative later on because that could change on its own. Short range, I'll show you the short range and you'll see just how close that level becomes when they receive an order to change that to short range. Let's go ahead and speed things along so they'll get these orders a little faster now. Since this is a single brigade, this order is going to come from Hancock rather than from the corps level. So here you can see the courier coming in. They're going to change that range. Now you can see they won't engage until they're really close. Now why would you want to do that? Well, in cases where you're low on ammunition, or you want to be really effective in your fire, then you would want to wait. For me, for the most part, I usually engage at long range. I just like being able to be as effective as possible and get as many shots on the enemy. But there might be situations where you don't want to do that. All right, lay down. Why would you want to lay down? Well, this is a situation where you're not planning on engaging the enemy. Let's say you've got the enemy firing artillery at you, or he's firing at long range and you don't want to really engage him. You just want to reduce the casualties. That might be a situation where you want to lay down, just to kind of reduce the damage you're taking until you're ready to fire. Skirmishers, like I said, I mean, the skirmishers are pretty powerful right now in this game, and you'll see that the enemy almost always puts skirmishers out. It's going to break off about 10%, I think, of your force. No, it looks like it's a standard 300, so no matter how many men are in your brigade, it seems like it does send 300 men as skirmishers no matter what. And then what's the other thing here? Then we have charge. Now, there's an easy way to charge. The easiest way to issue a charge order, and I can't do this right now because we're not in sight of the enemy, is actually to hold down the Alt button. If you're seeing an enemy, and I'll try to show you this later when we do engage the enemy. If you see an enemy unit and you want to charge into him, just select the unit you want to charge with, hold down the Alt button, and hover over the enemy you want to charge, and it's going to show you little cross swords, and you just left click and they'll immediately charge. No questions asked. You don't have to wait. As long as they're in this bugle range, and by the way, this bugle range represents the range in which a bugle call can be heard. So in this case, here's our division commander. Here's his bugle range. So if he issues an order that's going to be given by bugle, we've got to trust that the units that he's issuing that to are within his bugle range, which right now they're not. Okay, artillery orders. We'll get to cavalry in a minute. We're skipping that over for now. Artillery orders, limbering, unlimber, limber is just moving unlimbered is something you only want to do if you're moving the artillery maybe just a few yards to try and get them in a better position, try to get them up a little higher elevation, trying to change their facing, etc. You want to look at them and see. You can see right now that they're marching, and you can look over here, and we'll talk about the stuff on this in a little bit. You can choose fire at will, which means they're going to just fire on whatever target seems most appropriate at that time. Counter battery fire is something you'd probably want to primarily use with rifled artillery. Units like for example, a 3-inch ordnance, which is a rifled battery. They're going to be more accurate. They're going to be better for counter battery fire. You can also tell them bombardment, which is concentrating artillery fire in a massive bombardment using rapid fire. That needs preparation, so that's going to be something they're going to plan out a little bit. Right mouse click on a target area after the command is given. Hold right mouse click to change the size of the area. So let's say we do bombardment, and that's going to take some time. We can then issue an order and say, okay, we want to bombard. Oh, no, right now they're still issuing an order for movement, so I don't want that. Let's wait until that bombardment order is fully given, and then we can choose that. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on the bombardment order, and now you can see as soon as you click on that bombardment order, you have to do it right away. Now we have to wait a second. It's a little tricky, but you click on the bombardment, left click on that, and then immediately right click where you want, and then while you're holding down right click, you can raise and lower the area you're bombarding, and then just release the right click, and you can say what time you want that bombardment to take place. So this is if you wanted to line up a bunch of artillery in one spot and maybe soften up a target before you send in an attack. You could set up 4 or 5 batteries, tell them all to bombard a specific area at, right now is 11:04, so let's say we want a bombardment to commence at 12 o'clock except. Now I could issue an order to multiple batteries to bombard one area, and that's a great way to soften up, especially if you're facing a target that's got fortifications, which we'll talk about how to set up fortifications here in a minute. The only other thing I'd really say about artillery is you can see this dashed line here, that would be the range in which they are going to fire canister. If you're not familiar with canister, it's basically, think a coffee can full of little lead balls. I think giant shotgun, basically. They could take out dozens of men in one shot. That has to be at close range in order to be able to do that. And you want to make sure that they've got an open field of fire. Because if you got a brigade right in front of them, they're not going to be able to fire that canister. They're only, in that case, going to fire if they've got room to fire over the heads of the men in front of them. You'll want to make sure that line of sight is something you keep in mind, because if they don't have line of sight, they won't fire. Now, artillery does automatically choose the type of ordnance based on the situation. You don't have to issue orders for them to switch to canister. If it's appropriate for them to do so, they will automatically do that. Now let's talk about the commander orders. So in this case, again, I've got Hancock highlighted. So if we click on the commander menu, this is where, again, we're issuing orders that are going to apply to his entire command, which is the 1st Division. If I issue this order at the brigade level, it'll apply to a brigade, at a corps, army, same thing. So in this case, we're issuing orders that will apply to all of these units that are in Hancock's division. The first one is allowing initiative. And anytime you see if it's this kind of orangish color, that means it's currently turned on, basically. So in this case, rally's not turned on, but everything else is. Allowing initiative instructs the commander to react to threats while moving his troops. So, for example, if he believes in that situation that laying down is the best choice for his troops, he'll tell them to lay down. If he believes that changing the firing range is in the best interest of his command, he will change the firing range. He'll basically countermand any standing orders if it's better for the situation. Now, probably 75% of the time, I think initiative is good, especially if you're dealing with a large army and you don't want to have to micromanage things like that. But there are times it's an issue. For example, if you saw my video from my current campaign with the Confederates, initiative was turned on at the corps level, and Longstreet issued orders that pulled my men back from a really strong defensive position, and it just drove me nuts that they did that. So if you've got exactly what you want, say you're on a battle line and you want those men staying right there with those exact orders and you don't want anything changing them, make sure initiative's turned off for that situation. If you're moving, if you're kind of feeling out the armies and you're moving divisions in different ways, it's probably good to have initiative on, because that way the commander on the ground at that situation is going to react to what's in front of him. So if he runs into some troops, he's going to know right away he can issue orders. If initiative's turned off, he's not going to do anything without receiving orders from higher command. So you just have to kind of play with that and get used to it and figure out when you want initiative on and when you want it off. And again, all of these orders flow down from the top. So if I issue it at the army level, nobody's going to take initiative at any level. Detach means you can detach. Say I want to detach this division. They will now operate independently, and they won't wait to receive orders from the corps because they're detached from that corps. Rally is something you want to do. Let's say one of my brigades starts to fall back. I can choose rally, and Hancock will go try to rally his men and try to keep them from breaking. You can do that as well at the brigade level. You can use your brigade commander to try and rally his own brigade, but you can do that at higher levels as well. Now, this next part is really, really important, because the movement orders really have a big impact on things. They're defaulted to use roads, use high ground, use cover. Now, let me show you how that works in reality. Let's say I issue orders for Hancock to put his battle line, say, up here in this area here along this waterway, facing that way. You'll see if I issue that order and I drag, they're going to use that natural cover, and they're all going to file in right behind that water. Now, if I shift this way, you're going to see that changes. Now, you see that center brigade? He did not, you're not going to get a straight battle line here, because they're going to use the cover as they see fit. Now, if I hold down the shift button, they're going to stay in a straight line. Shift, what Shift does is it overrides all of those orders about using cover and using high ground. And it tells them just to stay in a straight battle line. Because there are going to be times you want to do that. Other times you want them to use the natural cover. All right, here comes the Confederates. Now let me pause for a second. So it just depends on what you want. Do you want them to have the natural cover of the position? Do you want them to be in a straight line? Because you can see how it kind of breaks them up depending on the situation. But right there, they're using cover. If I hold down Shift, it changes it to a straight battle line. It just depends on what you want. Now, what about movement? Let's say, in this case, I want to move a brigade. I want to move this brigade right here, and I want to put them over here somewhere, like right there. You'll see that if I drag the order right now, because he has use roads turned on, roads are the fastest way. They're always going to default to the fastest permissible way for them to move. In this case, that brigade's going to move by the road. Now, what if I don't want him to take the road? What if there's an enemy here and I want to get him over there, but I don't want them to go through the enemy? Well, what I need to do is I need to override that road order. And now what he's going to do, and you'll see this will take a minute, but once he receives the order not to go by roads, he's going to change this, and he's not going to go by the road anymore. He's going to probably take a straight line approach to get there by the shortest route possible. There you go. See, he received the no roads order, so that changed. Now I can change it back, and I can go back to use roads, and now he'll receive that new order from his division commander. He's going to switch back to using the road because that is the fastest way to go. So same thing with the cover and high ground orders. They're going to default to that whenever possible if there is cover or high ground available. So right here you can kind of see that there's high ground. Sometimes it helps to move down and scroll down to the lowest level possible because you can see the high ground better than you can looking at the map. When you're managing a large army, it's better to kind of look at this level, but when you're deciding on positions, it really helps to zoom in so you can see exactly what it is that you're looking at. So let's say I want to move this guy in behind this water here. We can just do that. Now again, here I can give this, if I click on this, it's going to issue that order a lot faster because he's going to receive that as a bugle command, and it'll instantly give him that order. We don't have to wait, in this case, for him to issue orders to all of his commanders. I think I had already given orders. Oh, that's a division level. That's why. Their division orders coming in. Now you can see the artillery automatically opened up on the enemy as soon as he was in range. We didn't have to tell them to do that. They will automatically target whoever's in their front. All right, so let's talk about building fortifications now. In order to build fortifications during the battle, you have to not have anything else highlighted. So, you know, sometimes it can be frustrating. It can be like, okay, I want to use the 4th Brigade to build fortifications. Now, you can do that, but you can also do it when you're not highlighting anybody. And you can just issue a fortification order like so. Now, in this case, you can't build... these are parapets, so those are more like trenches as opposed to just breastworks, which is more like kind of like what you see on a battlefield where they'll just grab stones, grab wood, grab whatever cover they can and quickly, hastily assemble that. So let's go ahead and select breastworks. Now what I want to do is I want to go to where I want to start the breastworks and just right-click. Sometimes it gets difficult like this. All right, so what is going on? Sometimes this happens and I don't know why. All right, there seems to be something going on with the fortifications, the breastworks on this, and I'll try to go into another battle and see if I can get it to work better. But normally what would happen is you click on this, you click on breastworks, you right click, and then you just will drag across the area that you want to build the breastworks, and then you right click again, and then you just click off of it, and then you have to select the unit and right click on that breastwork plan, and they will build it, and then they can get in behind it. So just watch some of my other videos. You'll see me building breastworks, and that's typically how it works. I don't know if there's a glitch right now, if there's just an issue that I can't build that here at Chancellorsville. All right, let's move on to a few other things. I want to take a look now at the different reports that are available to you in the tactical battle screen. And these are all really, really helpful bits of information that'll help you determine what you want to be doing in any given situation and help you be aware of what's coming up. So you'll remember, for example, that we talked about units in the order of battle that we saw that were not yet on the field. In this case, Reynolds Corps. So we know Reynolds Corps is coming at some point. If we want to find out when they're coming, that's something we can do in the condition report. We can click on Union, Army of the Potomac, and everything starts at the top level and works its way down. Now I can see who I have available and who's on its way. The 1st Corps will be here in 27 hours. The 2nd Division, which seems to be just kind of an independent division, will be here in 28 hours. So I know when I'm going to be getting those reinforcements. I can also see an estimate on when the Confederacy may be getting any reinforcements. 1 hour for Stewart's Division, 2 hours for the Army Reserve Artillery. I can also see remarks, for example, that they're in low supply in some cases. 2nd Corps is about to arrive. All really helpful information, especially if you're fighting in a campaign and you know you've got reinforcements that are going to be coming at some point. Now, in the overview screen, you get some really helpful bits of information about not only your army, but the enemy. You can see things like their fighting spirit, which is going to determine how willing they are to fight and how quickly they might break. Their experience right now. This is, again, at the entire Union Army level, but I can go down and see this at different levels. Intelligence gathering, training. If I want to see that at the division level, I can see that there. And I get these little remarks too, like the 12th Corps is my best corps. That's good to know. If I've got a particular task that I want a specific unit for, that might be who I choose to go with that. Now I can take that a step further, and I can see that within the 1st Corps, the 1st Division is the best division. And in that division, the artillery is the best battalion. And I can see that for any of my units at the various levels. If that particular unit. So I know my best division in my entire army is going to be that 1st Division of the 12th Corps. So if I need a job done, that's who I go to in that case. Now, let's talk about condition. We can see the condition. These are basically just numbers to let you see in comparison. It's not necessarily, there's not 100 men, obviously. But you can see, if I see a number that's 60, I know that unit compared to the others is down in terms of men, horses, guns, provisions, etc. So that's just, again, some more vital bits of information that will help me in planning. Now, the strength report is the one I use most often. That's going to give me not only my numbers, but also my casualties, percentage of casualties, etc. Aggregate last return. This is who I actually have on the field. Now, that doesn't update in real time, but it does update regularly. Now, right now, 94,000 is who we would have when everybody's on the field. Right now, we only have 75,000 actually present for duty. Again, I can break this down at any level that I want to and see that information. Now, the combat report. This is going to show me exactly how many casualties we're inflicting. So you can see so far we've only inflicted 4 casualties, and that's going to be from my artillery. Might explain why the division artillery is showing as my best, because they're the only ones who have actually done anything so far. So let's go ahead and just let this play out a little bit and see how that information might change. See, now here's a great example of initiative. I did not issue orders for Green's brigade to change to a long-range firing order, but they did that on their own because it makes sense because of where the enemy skirmishers are. So their division commander issued orders to that entire division to switch over to a long-range plan. Now, if I want my units to target a specific unit, let's say that there are multiple units, and I want all of them to fire on one guy, I can do that. I can just select green. I can right-click on who I want to be his target. And in this case, because they're not quite in range, they're going to actually move up to get into range where they can engage the enemy. So you want to be careful with that. If I issue orders to green telling him to engage this artillery, he's going to move up to get in range, and that might screw with my battle line. So you want to be cautious in using that particular order. Now, you might see in some situations that only some of the men are firing, and that might depend on whether they have line of sight. Say I've got an overlapping unit right here, and these guys on the left side of this brigade don't have line of sight at the enemy. You'll just see that they don't fire, and only the men who actually do have line of sight fire. That's a cool feature. I like that they do that. It takes that into consideration, so that's why you want to keep clear lines of sight whenever possible. So now we can look at the combat report again, and now we can see the casualties inflicted at different levels. And you can see that those numbers are starting to update to reflect the casualties that have been inflicted. Still all by the 12th Corps. Still majority by the 2nd Division, but some by the 1st Division as well. And now we have the 2nd Brigade starting to inflict some casualties. So that's just all really helpful information, as is the commander information. This is where you can see who your commanders are of each of your units, what their experience is, what their fame is, what their leadership, initiative, administration, cunning, ranking. And I believe this is the ranking as far as where they rank in all of your units. You've got, here's Pleasanton 1. You've got Sickles ranked 20th. The engineer is 37th. And then I can go within them and you can see. So that's kind of a cool feature. You can kind of get an idea of who your best units are and how you might want to use them. Now, during the battle, you're going to want to keep an eye on the information that you're receiving about each of your units. Green is always good on the situation screen, and red is bad. So right now they're supported because they've got friendly units on each side. That encourages them. Their commander is nearby to motivate them. High leadership and fame will inspire their troops in particular. So as long as everything's green, you're in good shape. What you want to watch for right here are the red. They're under artillery fire, so that's going to affect their stats, their performance. You can see what their training is, their fatigue level, their cohesion, the ammunition that they have left. Everybody starts with 60 rounds of ammunition. What they would be like in melee. So if I'm trying to decide whether or not to charge a particular unit, which again, let me show you how that works. You hold down the Alt button, and if I were to right-click on Perry's detachment, Kane's brigade would charge, and you're going to see that they're immediately going to do that. That is an instantaneous order that does not require coming down from anybody else. This is not an ideal situation for charging because I'm really far away, but I just wanted to show you how it worked. Now I'm in a situation where I've got a unit way out in front of everybody else, but I don't want to just issue movement orders back, because if I do that, they're going to turn and face their backs to the enemy. That's not ideal. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to issue orders where I want them to go, but I want to do that as a fallback order. That way they'll fall back, but they'll do so facing the enemy. So that's the ideal way to do that. You can see they're backing up slowly, but they're not turning their backs on the enemy, so they're continuing to be effective. But you can see now they're way out in front, so they're taking flanking fire. They're falling back under fire. They're taking artillery fire, so it's just a bad situation for them. So I don't think there's really a whole lot more for me to cover. If you have specific questions, please use the comment section below, or you can head on over to our Discord server where we have a channel specifically dedicated to this game. There's a lot of great information that can be learned from the message boards on Steam as well. But use the comment section below if you've got specific questions. Just a couple of additional recommendations if I haven't already mentioned them. One thing I highly recommend is that the first order you give when starting out a battle would be for your formations. However you're going to want the men to form, double line, single line, attack column, etc. Do that first, give that order first. Once they receive that order, then give your movement orders, because it's going to be a lot easier to line your men up if you already know the formation that you want them in. And in fact, when you're first doing your kind of setup for your battle at the beginning, you can do those instantaneously. So you can set your formations and you won't have to wait for those orders to be given. They'll change the formation instantly. And then you can kind of start issuing your orders. That's something I highly recommend. I also recommend keeping initiative on only when you want them to actually take initiative and you don't want your orders being overridden depending on the situation. If you've got a strong battle line, if you've got your men exactly where you want them to be and you don't want them changing that, make sure initiative's off for any of those troops involved in that particular battle line. Other than that, there's not a lot really to cover. So like I said, if you have specific questions, go ahead and let me know. If there are specific other areas of the game you'd like me to do a tutorial, please let me know that as well, and I'll try to do that in the future. If you drop a like, I would greatly appreciate that. Subscribe if you haven't already. We do content for this game pretty much every other day, sometimes even more often than that. So I hope you're enjoying it, and I highly recommend you get this game. It's going to be a fantastic game when it's finished. It's got a lot of work to do, but it's really come a long way, even in the few months that it's been out. And the developers on top of it, they listen, they give their best efforts to responding to the feedback. The game is 100% better than it was 2 months ago, and I think it'll be 100% better than it is now 2 months from now. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you again soon.